everybody, I'm Patty with Studio R12 Stencils, and today I'm going to show you how to do a faux chalkboard technique, a distressed faux aged look. It's going to be fun. To get started, we're going to use a background paint that is going to be just plain old acrylic. A lot of people think that in order to, number one, make a chalkboard, that you have to use chalkboard paint, and you do not indeed need to do that. You can use any matte acrylic paint and just base coat your surface, and then you can prime it with a piece of chalk, wipe it off, and then you can start using it as a chalkboard, and it works perfectly. But today I don't want to paint with chalk. I want to make it look like a chalkboard. So what we're going to do is use something that looks like it's already been primed. I'm using just a kind of a neutral gray. Shake it up really good. And we're going to base with that, but before I do that, I want to add a little bit of distress technique. I'm going to use this Clapham's salad bowl wax, get it on my finger, and I'm going to just apply it a little bit to the edges in a random pattern. I want the paint to kind of chip off in some areas. I don't want this to get too busy. I'm going to do a foil leaf bee on this, so I don't want too much busyness, but I do want just a little bit of aged look going there. I don't want it to look like polka dots, so I'll make some of these longer. If they all look the same, then you need to go back and make it a little bit more random. And then you can spread out some of them. We'll see what that looks like. The neat thing about this technique is you can always go back over it and paint it after you've done the sanding and the removal of the thing, and then that will make it, you can disguise some of your pattern if you get too much or too little. You can actually sand to make it more. So I'll show you those. Okay, here we go. We're going to use a polyfoam brush, pick up a generous amount of paint. I'll start in the middle. That's going to be too light. That's too toned with my chalk. So we'll mix it with black or a dark gray. I'm just going to mix it with my brush because I'm going to saturate that brush anyway. Okay, I think that's better. Maybe a little bit darker. Sometimes in the bottle, paints look way different than they do on your palette. So sometimes it takes getting it out here to be able to tell what you've got going on. Okay, so that is someplace in between. There we go. The wax makes a wonderful resist. When you're painting circles, make sure that you don't paint in a circle. You want to paint with straight lines. And if you need to, you can turn your board so that it works better with the motion of your arm. Okay. Try not to push too hard on the wax bits because you could spread them instead of letting them just sit under the paint right there. Okay, now we get it dry with the blow dryer. Be careful about heating this area up, so might need to more naturally dry it rather than heat drying. So cool blow dryer or naturally drying. All right, I've got my board dry, and I have a sanding block that has a 60 grit sandpaper on it. This is super coarse, and it's going to do the job of lifting this paint off. How much pressure you use, it will determine how much paint you will lift. So start off soft and then push harder. You want to go in the same direction as your paint strokes, so you keep everything uniform. When you start crossing your lines, it starts making pattern, and if that's not intentional, it can make your project be really not as pretty as it could be. So make sure you pay attention to that. It's something every beginner can do, and it will make every project more pro, no matter what your painting level and experience. Okay, so we're going to go straight up and down. And so see how that just lifted right away. Okay, now turn it over. ran into my fingers. Okay, let's clean off our mess. Excuse me. When you're sanding and you get debris on your project, if you go right over it with like a varnish or a wax or something like that, you can cause bleeding of your colors. So be careful to wipe everything off. And now we need to do a little cleaning stage with this so that all of our paint will stick, because that wax is a resist. And that means that you will have, your other paint will also resist sticking. So I need to get a cleaner. And we just use Zep. It's just something that we started using and we haven't changed it. It's just a degreasing cleaner. And so you can just squirt that on there. And then we'll wipe away the waxy residue. I think I got a little too busy with this, so I'm going to get a foam brush out. I'm going to add a little water. This is one of the things that we like to do, is show you guys how to fix mistakes when you make them. So I always want to have things that I have to decide so I can share it with you and share the reasoning and stuff like that. I think that's something that we do that is very helpful. Make sure that you give us a little heart and a thumbs up in the comments if you like that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to just feather out a little bit. I can dig that. And back to the blow dryer. Okay, let's talk about stencil selection. So I know I want this to be like a chalkboard look, and I really wanted to do a foiled bee with the black chalkboard. It's just kind of a neat contrast. So I wanted something French. We have a whole bunch of really authentic antique French layouts for our stencils. And so we chose this one because it has a little bit gardeny feel, because it's about flowers. So choosing anything that's in the French kind of thing is going to make it just feel, I don't know, more bohemian and that kind of thing. So we're going to set this up so that we're basically centered. We're going to look on our edges. You can take a T-square. If you don't know if you're straight or not straight, but if you don't know if you're equal. So I'm just under, quarter under 2. And exactly right on the money. How cool is that? Okay. We're looking to see if we've got about the same amount of spacing here and here. I feel like this could come down just a teeny bit. Okay. All right. Secure it with a piece of tape. Now, there's always a danger when you're securing with tape and you have fresh paint. You want to be careful. A lot of times if you're mixing a color, it's a good idea to take a little paint canister or something and save that little bit off to the side. You can also take a Rubbermaid lid and put a piece of saran wrap over the top of it, just in case you have lifting or something like that. So I always tape in 2 places, and I'm going to tape gently so that I don't increase the risk of lifting my paint. And we're going to go into a grayish tan, and you are going to learn one of the coolest techniques. Everybody thinks that when you stencil, like it's the same pressure for everything. I'm going to show you a technique that will make this look so cool and so faded. You're going to love it. Okay, going to get one of our large dome brushes. The dome brush is cut really differently than other stencil brushes because it is cut in a dome all the way around. It's not flat on the end, so when you push down on it, it doesn't cause the hairs to sneak underneath your stencil. So that's one of the most beautiful things. It will help you not bleed under. And then how we offload the paint is going to be the second way you don't bleed under. So we're going to pick up with a dry brush. Never use goopy paint with stencils. Never use wet paint with stencils. You want it to be dry paint, dry brush, and then you can offload and then onto your project. So we'll pick up just a little bit right on the tip, and then we're going to rub it in circles 5 to 10 times. I want this to be really faded, so I'm going to give it a couple of extra swirls. And then the secret here, I'm going to show you here on this F, and then I'll work my way through the rest of the project. The secret to this is figuring out exactly how much pressure. So I'm not pushing at all. I'm feather, almost like I'm like applying powder to the skin. You know, you just barely brush it on. Okay, so I'm going to do this F, and then we're going to peak. Okay, so I think that's absolutely perfect amount of color. So just one coat's going to do it. This is going to be so fast. You're going to be impressed. Ooh. Let's talk about that. So my brush had a little bit more paint. The more you load on your brush, then the more paint will be inside this brush. So as you're going, you're going to want to spend more time on the paper towel if you want even texture. So I can fix this S. Let me show you to the camera. So that's super kind of bright compared to this. I can fix that two ways. There's probably more than two ways, but two that I can think of right away. I can take a little bit of my base. I can back it off that way, or when I'm done, I could use a little bit of light sanding and that will back it off as well. When you have a long bridge, unbridged area, a bridge is a piece of plastic that holds the stencil together. When you have a very long one, we did this so that it wouldn't look too bridgy, but when you have that, it's a good idea to just hold it down and then go with the flow of the cut, okay? Okay, let's take a look, sneak a peek, and take a look and see if we think that we've got it nice and balanced. Okay, so that is super pretty. Do I want it a little stronger? I don't think so. Okay, so the beauty of stencils is that later on when I get my B on here and I look at it all together as a unified thing, I can put my stencil right back on top and line it up, and I can darken the areas that I think need more darkening, and I don't have to worry about it right now at this step. So I love that our stencils are reusable. When you use vinyl, you're one and done. You've got to weed it again. You've got to cut it again. You've got to do all these things. And when we were looking at the B that we were going to use, you can pick and mix and match your stencils. Like this is one of our absolute best sellers since the stencil number is 917. So we have 6,000 titles. So this probably goes back 5 or 6 years, and it's been a #1 seller since it was born. Anyway, but you can take the crown out and you can use just that. You can take the B. We've used these laurels a million times. So you can wash these. We've got videos on how to do that. You can reuse them over and over again. So stencils are durable and amazing. All right, we like what we've done. I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. Oh, look how pretty that is. I think it's just the right amount of distressing that makes it look really old. Definitely looks like it's chalk. And we can take it a little bit further and go ahead and run a sander through it just to make it look a little bit more distressed. What I find a lot of times is when you take a sanding disc, this is a 120 or 150 sanding grit. When you take a sander over your stenciled project, what happens is the paint tends to sink together and it looks way more cohesive, looks more refined and more finished. So that knocked that S back. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll squint at my project and see where I think that things are sticking out too much if I'm doing something that's very subtle like this. Squinting is super helpful. That just settles everything down. Nice. Okay, and you will love those sanding blocks. They save the wear and tear on your carpal tunnel and all of your hand wrist. They have the weight to them. We have those as an affiliate link for Amazon for those of you who are interested. Okay, talk about bees. We have a lot of bees on our website. So if you're into bees, we've got Be Kind, Be Cool, Be Nice, Be Yourself. We've got all the bees. We've got these elegant royal bees. So I needed a bee that was about that size to work with this stencil. But I have this other Be Kind stencil, and I like the laciness of this bee. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. We'll get him set like right smack. I want to make sure that he stays straight. This is what I love about stencils is I can use just the bee on this. I can use just the kind word. I can just use the bits and bobs on a stencil. You don't have to use the whole stencil as it sits. All right, so this has got a couple of things going on. This has got a slanted line. We're on a circle, and I need to be straight, and I want my bee to be level. So, zoom, that is going to be a little bit tricky. Let's see, maybe back to the T-square. Okay, so we get, I think I'll go north of this. And let's anchor those wings to the top of my T-square. And if I take the T-square away, then that should be a straight bee. Okay, now that we've got it straight, we want to definitely tape it. Always 2 pieces of tape when you're taping your stencil because, and I actually don't want to show you this, when you only anchor in one place, you can rock everything. Okay, so I'm holding it kind of still because I don't want to have to recenter that bee. Okay, so 2 pieces of tape secures it so you can't go anywhere. There's 2 kinds, this is where we're getting into our foiling. There's 2 kinds of foiling glue that you can use to stick your foil to. What happens with the foil is this is the top, that is the bottom, and what this is a piece of like plastic basically that this gold has been applied to. And so we are going to put a sticky glue that stays sticky once it's dry. And we're going to put the foil down on top of it. We're going to rub it with a little cosmetic sponge, not through the stencil. We're going to take the stencil away, but let's get started with that. I'm going to use the foiling glue just because I think it's going to be more readily available. This product, supply chain, everything has been less available that I've seen in the craft stores. And this is Aleene's foiling glue. Okay, so I'm going to use a jumbo dauber to apply this. Just pick up some of the glue and then pounce it nice and dry. And got a masking tool so that I don't get into my other areas. And actually this is that gonna get fine enough? Okay, yeah, it's getting in there. Interestingly enough, this jumbo dauber is also domed. So you're seeing a little trend here with the domed tools for stenciling. And we'll mask. Let's see, we'll go right across here. Okay. You can take the sticky off of your stencil with warm soapy water when it's still wet, and you can take it off afterwards with rubbing alcohol. What I find about these jumbo daubers is they don't pick up more and more and more paint. They do a really good job of controlling it and keeping it very even. So it's a really lovely applicator. You can shade with these. You can do all kinds of fun tricks with these. I love a good multi-use tool. All of our stencils are available on StudioR12.com, and they come in tons of sizes as well. So one of the things that I did when I was looking for the bee is I picked up 3 or 4 different sizes and of bees, and then decided that I needed something that was a little bit fancier, and so I kept looking, but we had a lot of choices to pick from. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top, make sure I got everybody. Okay, put this in water so that it will clean out. You can clean this out with just warm running water that you squish on it, but you got to keep it wet. If it dries, then you're ruining your jumbo dauber. These things will last you for years. They are not a throwaway tool. They are a reusable tool. Okay, so now we take off our stencil. You can see where the medium was applied. And I'm going to go ahead and blow dry. Okay, and now we're going to apply the foil. It's not going to fit over the whole bee, so I'll just start at the bottom and then use this little makeup tool. And you do want to press hard, firmly, I guess. Don't use your finger or your nail or anything like that, because you'll make actual scratches through the foil and stick it to your project. So that's why we're using this nice soft applicator. Okay, and we lift that up. And then we remove it, and ooh, pretty. That's awesome. Let's see how much of this top part we can get. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, and you'll see that the bits are removed from the piece of plastic. And sometimes it's like putting a puzzle together to try to get it all formed on there. And I believe that that is gold. Oh, that's so pretty. Okay, so now you have choices. You can decide if you need to make something darker or lighter. You can decide if it needs any more details or any of that kind of stuff. You could put a couple of little details on either side. We could put some leaves. If we wanted to do some more, a little bit more gold, I might do that. Maybe just have them hanging off the edge. Okay, I am going to go ahead and do some gold on these little bits of greenery, goldery. I'm going to use another jumbo dauber. I got a clean one. Same technique. Now, something that you can't, I'm sticking. So this is a really good restickable product. So it will stay sticky. So you could use this underneath your stencil to keep your stencil stuck down. So that's kind of a neat sub-use of it. All right, so get that there. You can control how much leaf color you get on your project by how much pressure you use with that little, this little makeup guy. So if you push really hard, you're going to get a really good contact with your glue. And if you push really light, you're going to just a little bit. And then after you're done, you can use varnish to seal it under, and then it won't be sticky anymore. Okay, we're going to go on that side and then on this side. Always stick in two places. Ah, not stuck over there. Okay, we're going to put our foil on there. Try to put it so that you keep control of how much of your foil you use. Like, do it strategically. All right, I love it. So let's take a look. You can see the glimmer and the shimmer, and this would look so good in your entry or as your welcome on your front porch. I hope you guys learned a lot. Make sure that you let us know if you like it, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.